So this is What's Happening, and obviously it's a new show that passes on the radio and also on a podcast. And right now I am live, with a friend of mine that I met online, and also he's a marketing expert. He's been doing marketing for 17 years, and he is all the way from Australia. So we had to like organize our times, and obviously his time zone is completely different from mine, 10 to 12 hours difference, and it's amazing that we are able to talk, with the means that we have from technology to talk to people all the way in a different part of the world. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce you to Sam Nuku. He's I'm not sure if he has a better way to say it because with his Australian accent, but I would like him to maybe introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about why I obviously asked him to come and get interviewed.
Hey Rafael, thanks a lot for having me on, man. I appreciate the introduction.
No
But yeah,
problem.
you're right. Absolutely. We did meet online, in fact, and
Yes,
if I remember correctly, it was about 3 years ago. We were both looking to expand our abilities to be able to market, different products and services a little bit better.
exactly.
And we've always gone along ever since then. And even though whether we've been in touch every 6 months or 12 months, we've always kind of maintained what I believe is a mutual respect for each other's work and paths that we've taken along the way.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's been great following along with you. It's been really, really good connecting with you. I appreciate you having me on the show for your listeners. I myself have absolutely been in the marketing game for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I've been in multiple different niches because I very much love to discover and learn different knowledges about different markets, different games, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
I've made money in forex trading, in sports betting, in affiliate marketing, video marketing, social media. I've done quite a broad range of things, if you will, which is why I'm pivoting at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who know me up until this point have only ever really known me as an affiliate marketer, but I'm
Okay.
pivoting more towards a position of coaching and consulting because what I feel like my greatest knowledge is the
Mm-hmm.
ability to be able to educate people, to be able to consult them based on what their expertise is, and be able to take them from one point to another point using the online world.
Exactly, and that's exactly why I've asked you to come to an interview because obviously you have all this experience. And I used to do a business show, but now the show is more related to community issues, challenges that people are facing in the UK, around the world, and to basically just keep people updated with what's happening around the globe and what's important for individuals that listen to the show and to the podcast. And obviously, your experience would obviously motivate other people to do something positive with their lives, and maybe obviously give some advice on how to maybe start a business or grow a business or continue growing their careers. And that's important right now because in the UK we are on lockdown, and many other places probably there's some sort of lockdowns or some rules due to COVID. And I wanted to see if I can motivate individuals out there to listen to this and say, you know what, there's better out there. There's things that we can do, to engage with individuals and maybe even doing some business internationally, maybe even work internationally, and just find ways where obviously we can discuss today and see what is available for people to do to change their mindset and improve their lives. You see, so yeah, that's basically
Yeah,
what I asked you here.
absolutely, absolutely. And look, it's a pretty scary time, right,
Yes,
for most of us. I mean, it's literally, we're in unprecedented times, and there
yes,
is no hype behind that statement. It is the most bizarre time that we have ever lived. And most definitely the most weird time in if not modern history, but of all time. Like we've
yes.
never experienced anything like this.
No.
So there's a lot of people going through this. There's a lot of mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in the industry, and I
Yes,
continue to work to stay pretty close to it. My sister, she has her degree in social work. My other sister has her degree in psychiatric work. My other
awesome,
sister has her degree in psychology. And so
nice.
I'm very well aware. I've got my pulse very much on the mental health world because it's something that affects me as well. I'm
Yes,
not immune. I'm prone to these things just like everybody else. So
of course.
if there's anything that you feel that perhaps maybe your listeners are specifically looking for that may or may not be helpful, feel free to ask, and I'll give the best possible advice I can.
Of course, yeah. I know that you do also have experience in mental health, and it's important to get people out there to understand what's important for them. Because we have challenges right now. I had a few shows, I think last week. One show was to do with the fact that there's more loneliness during lockdown, and more people feel lonely. And also, there are people still struggling with to find work, and there's still the asylum seeker issue, and we can't just obviously think about the lockdown, but challenges and issues are still happening around the world that we need to face. And as individuals, we need to see what is better for for ourselves and for our families and for our communities. And yeah, just obviously Australia is Australia in lockdown right now?
We have Melbourne, I believe.
Okay.
Or it might have actually been Victoria as a whole, as a state, but they actually just came out in the last few weeks. But there's, again, it's kind of ongoing. It's, I guess, because it's a biological virus, right? We don't really know what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, and so they're constantly changing. And there's it's not just a lockdown, but there's also different levels that you may or may not be aware of.
Yeah.
Where at a certain point, it's just complete lockdown. Everyone's at home. You don't do anything, and then there's a certain level where you can actually go shopping, or you can go hang out socially and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we've there has been a lot of issues. I've got a lot of friends all over the world. Friends in Hawaii, in the islands. Obviously, I lived in New Zealand for 10 years, been in Australia for 10 years, and so I see these issues that are arising all over the world, and it's, I guess, the very first thing I could probably say in regards to that, even though I'm not a loneliness expert, but the first thing I would say is that understand that it's completely normal.
Yes.
Don't feel any less of yourself, which is one of the worst things we do. We beat ourselves up when we get these feelings, and we wonder, why is this happening to us?
Of
we
course.
don't really deserve this, and so on and so forth. But understand that a lot of people are going through this, and I guess to one degree or another, I have a love-hate relationship with the online world, which kind of sounds contradictory because I live on there. I do so much on there, right? It doesn't make any sense. But here's the thing. I love what social media brings, but I don't allow it to control my life.
Yes.
So I use it to connect with my friends and my family, especially when things were really hush-hush here in Brisbane, which is probably about 6 months ago now, where people, even though there wasn't a complete lockdown, people were just terrified just to go out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I couldn't see or hug my mother for 4 months because she was terrified of what she was seeing on the news about.
Of course.
About the virus. So what I would say to people is utilize these social platforms to build yourself some sort of connection, whether it's with your friends that are really truly important to you, or your family who are really truly important to you, or your workmates that are really truly important to you. Obviously, the key there is that it doesn't really matter who it is or how you're connected to them. It's only as long as you and them matter to yourselves. As long as that relationship is real between the two of you guys, then you can maintain that relationship through Facebook or Instagram or whatever your preferred medium of choice is.
I'm curious to know, obviously in the UK people have different experience, and I'm sure in Australia they also have slightly different experience, but we're all probably in the same boat. But just we want to know what is happening in Australia. Like, how does this affect you, your business, your lifestyle? How, did it have any impact on what you were doing before and what you're doing now? Just give me maybe a little brief of what is lockdown and COVID and all this situation. How has it changed your life?
Yeah, so look, for me, lockdown hasn't really changed my life much at all, and I'm very fortunate in terms of me being in Brisbane. Mm-hmm. We are quite sheltered. It's not like the UK where, and I've got a few friends from the UK, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but all the conversations that I've had over the last sort of 20 years is that it's a very dense city. Yeah. And there's a lot of mold and rain and overcast and all that kind of stuff, which obviously festers and make these potential things possibly worse, right?
In a few cities,
whereas in Brisbane, we live. I mean, we have sun. 80% of the year. Wow. When we rain, it doesn't last very long. You know what I mean? And not to mention, we're away from major city. We're not yet quite a major city. Mm-hmm. So, fortunately for me, because I'm online, business actually got better because people are starting to realize with these lockdowns that their jobs aren't as secure as they thought they were all along. Yeah. And so, in terms of me and what I do, it didn't affect me in terms of a negative. It actually affected me positively. And there are a ton of entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, and their businesses have gone to crazy sort of levels that sort of the kind of stuff that dreams are made of because of the lockdown. Yeah. So I guess I'm not saying that the online world is better than the offline world. I mean, there's tons and tons of millionaires and billionaires that have all been built through the traditional method.
Yeah.
But what I would say to people, and what I'm kind of grateful I did myself on the side here, is that I utilize the time to build an asset. And so when things hit, it didn't affect me as much as other people that were really, really struggling. Those are the people I feel for.
I see. So from people that you obviously see around you, obviously your experience is, you're a businessman and you obviously know how to protect yourself. But maybe before that, what kind of advice would you give to people, that everyday people that are there struggling? How did they plan for a future situation like this? Since you said that for you it didn't affect you as much, what would you suggest them to do?
Yeah, good question. Look, obviously I have my bias because I believe very much in the online world in terms of a business and income.
Yeah.
So what I would say to people is start building a side hustle. Do something online that you would enjoy. One thing that that lockdown has given a lot of us is perspective. Whether it's the perspective of, wow, I really truly missed this particular group of friends. They really mean a lot to me. I really miss, having this particular connection with this sister or this brother. And so with that perspective comes an opportunity. And the opportunity that lockdown gave a lot of us is time. And so what really should come out of this is the ability is you should be able to come out with some sort of skill or hustle that you have built on site. By hustle, I mean, there's a bit of negative connotation around the term hustle. All that basically means is that build something worthwhile online for yourself. Whether you're creating a Facebook profile that's actually going to speak to your level of expertise, a YouTube channel to do that, Instagram profile, LinkedIn, whatever the case may be. I would just say start working on building yourself some sort of online presence based on what it is that you want to do, so that come these times when the opportunity does present itself, you're protected per se, if that makes sense.
I see. Yes, makes sense. So in terms of job security, you mentioned something about that. And do you find that in Australia many people are losing their jobs? You think that
A lot of people. It's really, really sad. Now, we are fortunate. I will admit this. We are very fortunate, unlike majority of countries, where there are government stimulus packages that have been going for approximately 8 months now, give or take a month. And so there are a lot of people are covered financially. We've got our basic necessities covered, but I know 80-90% of countries out there don't have those means. So we are blessed in the sense that those things are covered. I mean, I didn't get the funding, I didn't need it, but there are a lot of people who wouldn't have been able to pay rent or wouldn't have been able to pay their mortgages without it, right? And so I'll just say that we are very fortunate here in Brisbane to be in that situation, here in Australia to be in that situation. With that being said, the government has already come out and they've already said that they're going to start removing these fundings over the next 3 to 6 months because, quite frankly, you can't just keep handing out free money. And that's more where we're really going to see the big numbers. At the moment, we're sitting at around a 6% drop in terms of employment. But there are so many statistics behind closed doors that are pointing more to around the 10 to 11%, which would be unprecedented. That would be historical numbers if it actually happens here in Australia. So that's pretty scary to know that one in every 10 adults that you see aren't going to be employed and they're not going to be able to pay their rent, feed their families, look after their loved ones. It's pretty scary. It
is. And I'm guessing that's what you think the future impact will be. Do you think that obviously now with the packages and all the support that has been given, in the future, obviously you can't keep, like you said, giving out free money, or maybe you can. Some of the government is using that to print out some money. So I've heard. But in terms of the future impact, in example, as in Australia, what do you think it will be for people that right now are getting the support? But in the future, do you think that there will be still jobs in there? There will still be opportunities in there, or they should start planning early?
Yeah, look, good question, man. I definitely think people should build something regardless, because this could very easily become an ongoing situation where every time something, potentially deadly rises up, because we've done it once already, it could turn into a very regular thing where the government just, every who knows, every 6, 12, 18 months, they just go, oh, look, so-and-so virus is out. we need to lock things down to make sure it doesn't spread, because the world is becoming quite populated. There are a lot of figures out there that have been quoted for saying that it's overpopulated. And that kind of gives them every reason to go ahead and lock things down if they so choose. And so my absolute belief is that if you haven't already, you need to start building something now, because I don't necessarily see it getting better. I could be wrong, because quite frankly, I'm naturally skeptical. But I just don't see it getting any better. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting more dense. All cities are becoming more populated, because the population is growing year on year. We all know the numbers that the world is basically going to be overrun in short enough or in due time. So when those things come, like you asked, how's that going to affect the workplace? We've already seen mass jobs in terms of our first world countries being shipped off to third world countries, because they happen to do labor a lot cheaper, a lot more efficiently, and they're able to provide a product that is typically just as good, if not just a shade bit better. As a business, it's an easy choice to just move things over there. Whether you want to argue that's fair or right or ethical or not, that's completely up to you. I'm not here to argue that. My point is that a business is going to do what is best for its own interests.
Makes sense.
So perhaps maybe it's best that you now become a business and do what's best for you.
I understand. Obviously this is also a little bit of a, we have a political side to the show. And since you mentioned about the overpopulation, obviously I'm not sure how the situation is in Australia, but, in the UK, people also have that mindset that, some especially right wing, have that mindset here that is overpopulated. And, obviously that could impact the world. And obviously we see so many deaths right now, and we don't know where it's going to end. And I hope that, things become a little bit easier for people. But at the same time, I read some statistics about, like, example, in the UK, I think only 20% of the UK is filled with people. The rest of the UK, there's so many spaces out there that are green spaces, as an example, in the UK. But when people say, the country is overpopulated, obviously the statistic might not be 20%. But what I'm saying is, example, when I go out the highway, there's so much space out there. But like you said, cities are being impacted because more people want jobs, more people want work, and they might go to cities, out of their villages if they live in a village, to actually get something for themselves. But I think with online and digital marketing coming, less people need to travel anywhere to actually, make a business work for them. So, instead of going to the cities, they might just stay in the villages, and they might stay like in their countries. And, there are so many people, example, in India or in Africa, doing the business from their continent or from their country, and is still making money without having to travel to big cities. But yes, big cities are being impacted. But I think that the world, there's always a way. There's always things that we can do to improve. Obviously, it's good that we're discussing, because I can see that maybe you're skeptical, and I'm always the positive side. So it's good to have this conversation, obviously, for people to listen to this and understand that there are, there's always different sides to, I guess, to a coin, to a story. But yeah, I think it's important, in terms of the work and the business. Like, example, in the UK, people need to understand that there are options out there, and maybe, I'm not sure what are the options in Australia. Is probably starting a business and creating a new income. And what would you suggest in terms of business? What are the best, besides online, or even if it's just online, what is the best products that you think would sell more internationally or in Australia?
Yeah, look, in regards to actual products that sell online, are we talking in terms of digital or physical products?
It could be both, any. So it's just, for obviously people to know that there are options out there, and just seeing, so if someone wants to make because UK and Australia, they have a sort of connection for a very long time, for many, many years. And, I'm sure that there are people doing business in Australia from the UK and vice versa. So it'd be nice to know, especially with Brexit hitting very soon in the UK, rules will change in terms of taxation and other things. So, for people to maybe know in the UK what is good to do in Australia, or, vice versa, how they can maybe interact with each other as a business.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the physical world, I'm going to be the first to admit that I'm very far from an expert.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's never been my focus. I remember I remember joining a business at 17,
Yeah.
and that very quickly transitioned into an online model at 18, and
Okay.
I have been obsessed ever since. And
Okay.
that was literally 17 years ago. And
Fair enough.
I just remember the first time I saw the internet, and to me, it made absolute sense. And at that time, I was offered to partner up with another gentleman to help run his sports franchise. So
Yeah.
he had 3 franchises himself already.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously saw the potential in me being so young. I had no idea what I was doing. But he said, "Look, I think you've got a mind for business, and I believe that you and I can work together." And I said, "How is that?" And he said, "Well, look, I run these franchises. They're literally mine. So how about I fund them? You run one of the stores, and we split the profits, right?"
Awesome.
So it's what we call that online is a joint venture.
Yeah.
And a joint venture is where two or multiple parties come together for a vested business interest.
Mm-hmm.
Now that can still be done in any country. You can literally be everywhere. I've got a friend in the Philippines that runs a social media ad agency all over the world.
Yes,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Exactly.
You're not limited, because here's the thing. These days, we have phones, and majority of phones are free calls all over the world, particularly for the first world countries. We have these plans everywhere. So all you really need to do is figure out how to get in contact with businesses, and how you can go ahead and provide your service or your expertise to that particular business. Now, in regards to the online world, in my honest opinion, in the next sort of 5 years, we've already seen massive growth online. But it's just my opinion, and I could be wrong. But I do believe info products are going to go to another level, another stratosphere that we've never seen.
Okay.
And I didn't believe this before. Funnily enough, if we'd had this conversation 12 months ago, I would have said, yeah, it's just about tapped out. It's time to transition into something else.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. None of us saw COVID coming.
Exactly, yeah.
It was completely unexpected. And what that has done, as I mentioned earlier, is provided perspective. And the perspective is, wow, my offline job is not as secure as I thought it was. And at any time they could lock things down, and I have no way of feeding my kids.
Yes.
So what people are doing now is they're turning online. They're finally opening up to the fact that, hey, I need to create something else on the side. And so now they're seeking out the information that is available in what I call these info products, different terms of types of training, depending on what it is you want to do. You know what I mean? And it's in every single market. Doesn't matter if you want to do trading, doesn't matter if you want to do marketing, even if you want to do network marketing, everything can be transitioned online so that you can reach more potential customers all over the world through whatever platform you want.
Yes, I do feel that more people are joining the network marketing industry as well since this lockdown has started, and I think they just feel like, okay, now maybe they lost their jobs, maybe they're on furlough, and they don't know. Furlough means it's basically a scheme here for people that can't work. They don't go to their offices, so they just get paid by the government. So that's what they call it. But basically, they're probably at home doing nothing, and they decided to maybe join one of network marketing business, or even start something online. There's many examples here that of people that are doing that, and it actually gets me excited. But I think sometimes people don't know what to do, so they join something, and it's a good experience, but they need to be motivated to push themselves out there and talk to more people. And maybe before we go on a break, you can just give them a tip or an idea of how to push yourself every day, through the obstacles.
Yeah, look, I'm actually glad you asked that question, and the reason being is because I feel like I've gone through a recent transition myself. Yeah. I mentioned earlier on, obviously, majority of my online presence in the last 5 years has been about affiliate marketing, which basically means I have the right to sell a certain product. Okay, basically that's what it is. It's let's just say, for example, you tell me about a movie, and I say, you know what, that actually sounds really interesting, and I go to the cinema and watch that movie. Wouldn't it be great if you got a cut? Because you were actually the one who convinced me to go, right? Yeah. And so that's essentially what affiliate marketing is. But look, I myself I wouldn't say I felt high and dry about the market, because there is so much opportunity out there, so much money. But here's where things have transitioned for me, and I really feel like I've gone to another level, and why I want to make this pivot is I would suggest to people is to sit down and do a little bit of self-development. I know it sounds a little bit woo-woo, and I get that a lot of people aren't into personal development, but here's what I discovered when I redid things is I discovered a vision, I discovered a mission, and I discovered a purpose. And
Yeah.
the reason I go back to those foundations is because prior to that, I was doing, just like anybody else I was motivating myself. Like, come on, you can do this, like pumping myself up and watching motivational YouTube videos and yeah, you can do this. And I would have to force myself to sit down.
Yes.
Now, since I've made that pivot a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't stopped in terms of the information that I've put together and the amount of work that I put into the business. I counted the hours over the last fortnight. I won't tell you what they are because it's a little bit embarrassing how deep I dove into it.
Yeah.
But my point is this, is that you only really need to be motivated if you don't know what your purpose or your vision is. Once you build that, you will be drawn by that mission, by that vision. You will no longer have to motivate yourself. You will get yourself out of bed. You will get yourself to study. You will get yourself to research and build these things without even having to be motivated.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Sam, for that. And obviously, we're going to go on a break now. So just wanted to obviously thank you for being here. And hopefully, we'll carry on the second half. So
yes, my pleasure.
Thank you for being here. And guys, anyone that is listening, just listen to the second half, and I hope you stay motivated, stay blessed, and stay safe. Take care. So this is what's happening. I hope you're enjoying your time. We're here with a special guest all the way from Australia, Sam Nuku, and we were discussing in the first half marketing ideas, what's happening with the world, lockdown, COVID, and basically just discussing, the issues of, obviously we are in a worldwide community. This is like a global community, but I think it's important for us to listen to other points of view of what's happening around the world. So here in the UK or anywhere else that you're listening in, you can understand that there are things that are commonality, like there's common threads in the situation that we're living in, and sometimes there might be different challenges and issues that they face that we don't face. So we mentioned before that if you go to different countries, they might not have support packages from the government. And obviously that's something that is harsh and hard, but it's the reality. And in countries like the UK and Australia, we do have some support. We're blessed to have some support. But I wanted to touch first of all on the motivational videos that you mentioned on the first half, and motivational stuff that you try to learn, and not just that, but self-development tools that you have. And maybe you can tell people where they can find them, or how they can reach so then they can stay motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really ultimately depends on the person and their budget. And this is kind of where I will put my consulting hat on, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Because it really truly does matter. One of the biggest problems when it comes to people and giving advice is that they're so biased with their view and they don't see anything else. They're so focused on selling you on one specific outcome that nothing else really truly matters, when really you should be listening to the person. As a real coach, as a real consultant, you should be listening to your client, or in this particular case, we should be listening to your listeners, right?
Exactly.
We should be having one-on-one conversation with them, because every single person, there is, like you said, there are base desires that we all have, right? Tony Robbins teaches this stuff.
Yeah.
Where ultimately we are all human beings, right? We are all spirits living in this physical body, experiencing
exactly.
this world. So ultimately it comes down to our core desires are exactly the same, but we have different upbringings, different personalities, different cultures, different preferences, different communication styles. And so all of these things really truly matter. And so for me, if you're going to ask me about motivational videos, look, the quickest and easiest way to do it, there is a lot of really cool stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's 100% free. Like, you could literally type in motivational video inspiration, or how do I find my purpose? You know what I mean? And you'll probably find a 5 to 10 minute video that will help uplift your spirits enough for you to be able to take the next step if you are feeling that bad, if you're feeling that down. I know this might sound stupid and this might sound a bit hypey, if you will, but the truth of the matter is that I went through a divorce 5 years ago.
Okay.
And there was a piece of advice that I found just through typing on YouTube that I could argue that actually saved my life at that particular time.
Awesome.
And so, you know what I mean? Like, you could say, oh yeah, right, that's not true. Well, actually for me, it really was.
Yes.
And so I'm massive on YouTube. My base research for anything that I do is Google and YouTube.
Okay.
Why? Because there's so much amazing information already out there. You just need to be willing to search and listen and read and so on and so forth. And so that's where I would say for people to start.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a bit more advanced, let's say, for example, they're aware of what affirmations are,
Mm-hmm.
they're aware of what visualizing is, and they just need something that's a bit more technically driven. They want something that's a bit more scientifically proven.
Yes.
In that case, then I would recommend to people to go to Neurogen. It's a program that's run by John Assaraf, who was an author and a speaker, very, very successful businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually one of the teachers on the very famous The Secret, if you ever watched that. It's
Okay.
quite old now.
Is there a book about it? Yeah.
Yeah, they made a book, they made a
I
movie.
think I've
It's
seen that.
massive. They essentially brought the law of attraction to light,
Mm-hmm.
right? They helped manifest that, and it's probably the greatest thing that came from that. But
Mm-hmm.
John was one of the teachers that was on that, and so what he decided to do at that particular time, because he was so dedicated to this stuff, is what is the actual science behind visualization? What's the actual science behind meditation?
Mm-hmm.
What's the actual science behind vibrational frequencies? And what he's done is he's built a program, depending on different stuff that you may or may not be struggling with, to help you get through it, utilizing technology. Because let's be honest, man, we don't all have 8 hours to sit in a mountain like a monk and meditate for 20 years to figure it out.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? In the modern world, we have so much we need to do. And so what I really like about his program, and I've used it to elevate myself in terms of my finances and my financial mastery, is he's got a program called Winning the Game of Money. And essentially what it is combining all of these different things into one audio for 30 minutes per day that you listen to, that helps condition your mind. So I'm just using that as my example because that's what I've experienced. But there are other programs there for like procrastination and fear and weight loss, and it's all based around these success principles that have been proven throughout human history, that a lot of these high performers, as us online people call it, that they utilize these different things. But this is a technology that helps us push it. And I say the reason why I say if you've got a bit more money or if you're a little bit more advanced is because that is a paid method.
Of course,
so depending on where you're at, I would suggest one or the other to look into.
No, that's interesting. I mean, when you mentioned before about obviously The Secret and how people, many of these things are kind of based on fact as well, and some are based on there's many other options out there, obviously. But one of the things that I see common on various entrepreneurs and various successful people is that they do sometimes just review their life and learn about yourself, and sitting down somewhere, or like it doesn't have to be in a mountain or in a cave or something like that, but just every night sitting down and just thinking about what's happening during the day, what's happened, how did you react and how did you do things. I think that's something that everyone should be doing every day to try and understand where they're going and what's the reason why. Like you said, what is the motivation. So it's good that obviously you have given some idea of like Neurogen and Tony Robbins, and there are many other ones that people can search online. But when you said about your divorce and how it helped to do some research, I have a reason why I actually do this radio show, is because when people listen to it, even if I can change one heart, like one mind on whatever situation they are in, I feel that it blesses me, and when I learn that this has happened, it makes me feel like I've done something good for them, so that's one of the reasons that I think people should try and communicate in all sorts of ways, and doing podcasts, radio shows, go on YouTube and check information. This is a very powerful tool, and I'm glad that obviously we have ways to communicate with people all over the world, because there are things that we might not know that we learn from people. Even sometimes it feels that I don't know, like third world countries where they have more, it feels like they have more time, they have more time to think, they have more time to do things. And when you look at their experiences and we learn from them, I've been in a few countries, I just feel a lot more blessed now that I learned from them, even though they might have a different lifestyle from what I have in the UK and what you have in Australia. But carry on and, giving us some more tips and maybe some info products that you think are worthwhile.
So in regards to info products, so again, my consultant hat on, I would just say it depends who you are and where you're at. You know what I mean? Like, because here's the thing. Let's just say, for example, somebody wants to do what I'm doing, which is affiliate marketing. So there's even just in that one title, even that is a niche in and of itself. There's different paths that you can go down. So, you can be promoting somebody else's product. You could be promoting your own product. Or you could be partnering, with a big enough company where, you're pushing their products per se. So let's say, for example, Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He's got a program that you can sign up to for free.
Yeah.
And you can start offering people his unlimited wealth programs, just as an example. Okay.
Yeah.
But when people come to me and they ask, like, what would be your recommendation for this or that, I honestly couldn't give you one specific advice, because it really depends on the individual, where they're at, what they want to do, because there's so many different facets to a different game. For example, affiliate marketing, you could just dive into paid advertising and just do it that way, because you don't necessarily want to be the face of a company. Or you could do it the way that I prefer to do it, and the way that any of my clients and students follow along, which is you create an expertise for yourself. And I'm not necessarily saying that you would sell your own products, because it really does take time to create products, to build a membership site, to set up payment merchants and all that sort of stuff. But all you really need to do is find a program that resonates with you. If you believe in e-commerce, find something in e-commerce, find an expert in e-commerce that you believe in, and start promoting their products. If you believe more in brand awareness and personal marketing, which is what I do, then then be prepared to kind of put yourself out there on social media platforms. And let's say, for example, all I want to do is I just want to create videos and put them up there on YouTube. That's awesome. That's fine. If you want to have that conversation, then we can sit down and talk about what course is probably best, in terms for you to do. There is, I'll be completely honest in saying that I am biased. I study high-end courses. Sorry, that's terminology. Most people probably don't understand that. I study courses that are between $500 and $15,000 every single week. It's just a life passion of mine. I dive deeply into online education so that I am so I can give the best possible advice to any given situation an individual may be in. So for me personally, the one course that I have done, there's a gentleman by the name of Zach Crawford. He's very low key, which is why most people haven't heard of him. But his name is Zach Crawford. He's based in the Philippines. I've actually met and spent time with this guy. In fact, he even offered to house and feed me when I met him.
Wow.
That's how legit he is.
Nice.
That is so uncommon. Most of these people just want to hide behind their cameras or the social media platform. This guy took me on a vacation on the weekend because I didn't have anything to do. It's pretty amazing. So what I like most about him is that he's got a course. It is a high-end course. It's not free. It's not cheap. He has free training that can get you started on the path, and then that might help a lot of people. And if you feel it might be something for you, then feel free to reach out, and I'll give you the free training. But he's got a higher-end course, and what I like about it is that it's a reasonable price in terms of what I do online. Remembering that I said. I study between $500 and $15,000 courses. I study courses that are $5,000 that are just absolute rubbish. I'm sorry, no disrespect to them. Good for them for being loaded for doing such a thing, but I just feel it's wrong. And yet I've done $300 courses that were better than $3,000 courses.
I can imagine. I agree with you.
It doesn't make any sense. It's insane. But what it is that certain people just know how to market and sell themselves better than others.
That's true.
Doesn't necessarily mean they have better knowledge.
100%.
So, the reason I typically recommend Zach is because he's got an overarching of information that covers pretty much every single platform, depending on what you want to do. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. He has his marketing principles that just teaches everybody everything they need to know, and it's pretty insane because every time I study a course, because he's such a good friend of mine, like he's a mentor and he's a coach, yes, but he's also a friend because, like I said, I've spent personal time with him, and so I can hit him up just about any time I want. Now, I'll go back to him and I'll go, hey, did you hear about this strategy? And they talk about this, and he goes, oh yeah, that's part of it's in the course. And I said, really? When? Where? I don't remember. And he'll go, oh, go to this model, and it's this video at this minute, and there it is. He actually already talked about it. But the key difference with him is that instead of creating like a 15-hour course where 13 of it is rubbish that you just throw out, he condenses all that information, and it's bullet point after bullet point. It's just loaded information. So sometimes, like myself, who's gone through it 2 or 3 times, even I miss things that he's already covered that, oh wow, it's actually already in your course, and I've just gone and paid $5,000 for this, and you've covered that plus 15 other topics. Why did I even waste my time and money? But that's one of my downsides in terms of my obsession with self-education.
Yes, makes
But
sense.
my point being is that it's such a great starting point for people who have a little bit of money to invest, who
Mhm.
are unsure what to do, because it takes you really from point A to Z in terms of creating an online business. Doesn't really matter what you want to do or what you want to sell. There's something there that will help you in your journey without spending a ridiculous amount of money.
I see what you're saying because in my experience, I also have obviously not just my experience, but discussing with other people. I've seen how sometimes you spend money on something that is completely useless and it doesn't really give you much information or it doesn't give you much tools that you need to succeed. So if you're learning a course, you need to do your research, and it's key that you research on the person, you research on the information that is given, maybe the free information, and just ask around, see the reviews, because it's important to see the reviews when obviously there are fake reviews out there, and there are people that use that
100%.
that those tools, but it's just important to see like just what it is that you feel when you're watching, because I had many people that you sometimes pay, and sometimes just go in and get a freelancer with some experience and some video experience is a lot better than spending thousands of pounds on someone to work for you or to do consultancy or to so it's just finding the right person for what you're doing, and how much money you have to spend is also important. So you need to, I think I've heard this sort of advice which is very interesting, but I can't remember who said it, but I think if you want to spend some money, know that if you spend, like, let's say you spend £1,000, know that you have to have another £1,000 saved to spend that £1,000. Like, meaning, that cash, you can't just keep spending money without having some savings. It's important to always have for a rainy day. So, just obviously giving some tips and advice on, people out there that are looking for self-development, because when you look for, a new tool or something that you're learning, you can't just choose anyone. And sometimes the problem is with people that they don't want to spend. They have the money.
Yes.
Maybe they have even like £100,000 saved, but they don't want to spend because they feel like, oh, you know what, I already have this money. But then slowly they start spending on things that are unnecessary because they don't have the self-development. They don't have the training. They don't have the ability to keep that money and try to learn the right way to do things. So yeah, just obviously giving some tips as well from my side. And it's important. But I wanted to obviously, if you want to give some more tips, go ahead. But I wanted to touch upon, like, obviously the situation in Australia and the a little bit of the government support, and how do you feel about, like, how they're doing things over there? With the lockdown and with the situation, are they doing the right things? Are they doing the wrong things? Just out of curiosity, and what do you think will be better, suited for the people? That obviously, I know that you don't do politics, but just out of curiosity, seeing what's the vibe in Australia, how people feel.
Yeah, so whether they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing really comes down to your own personal beliefs.
Yeah.
And there is a big reason why I don't talk about politics, although a lot of people do say that I should say something.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it comes down to what you believe. You know what I mean? Like, so if you believe in vaccines, then go ahead. You live that life. That's your choice. I personally don't believe in them, and so and I believe I've seen enough in terms of statistics to believe that the lockdown is bogus and that it's hurting people more than it's doing good.
Yeah.
But again, that's my belief. That's the premise from which I come from. So to understand one's perspective, you have to understand the journey they've been through, why it is they believe what they believe. And I'll just give you a little example so that people don't think, oh, great, conspiracy theorists. Turn off the radio show. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that to your people.
Yeah.
I believe everyone is good. I believe just certain people have different people have different exposures in terms of their experiences. So my wife was diagnosed 18 months ago with very high chance of cancer.
Okay.
And so, and me believing in the alternative world, which I always have, not necessarily in the medical world, we were both worried, but I kind of already knew what to do because it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I suggested to her not to go ahead with, the chemo and the chemotherapy and all that stuff that they wanted to do. I I suggested and said, I said, look, I've been following this stuff for 7 years now at that time. I suggest you look at this. Now, I didn't want to enforce my beliefs on her. All I could do was make this suggestion because she comes from a medical background.
Okay.
She is a registered nurse who worked in that field and now works in the healthcare industry. And so she's very much about the medical world. And she struggled in terms of what I was suggesting. But I think because she knew I was coming from a place of pure authenticity, pure love, no judgment, that I'm not saying this because I want you to die. I'm saying this because I want you to live as long as possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would I say it? You are my wife. And so, long story short is that she decided to take the alternative route as opposed to the medical route. And within 12 months, she went from high risk to non-existent.
Wow, that's amazing.
The doctors and the nurses, every single person that we spoke to were mind blown. They had no idea why we did what we did. I knew what we were doing, and I believed in it 100%. And could I have been wrong? And could that have been a potentially very dangerous situation? Yes, absolutely. But isn't that life? Isn't that life? Your ability to be able to educate yourself, make your own decisions, and choose your own path, and then it's up to you as an adult to live with the consequences. So me, for example, all I could do is do my part as her partner, support her in what she chose to do and give her the information based on what I know, but it's her decision.
Of course, yeah.
And so it's things like that is the reason why I believe in the alternative world and why I believe in looking up, doing your own research to find the numbers, to look at the actual science behind what's really going on. In terms of, I don't want to dive too deeply because it's a very sensitive topic.
It is.
And there is a reason why, despite me knowing what I know, I've never gone into that niche. I've never tried to sell a product because I have a very specific idea of it, and I don't think it's fair to enforce it on other people. Some people are fine with that; they're happy being the alternatives, but not me. But I would just say I don't think the lockdowns are fair because it's already been shown in actual statistics that the numbers were skewed. It's also been shown that a lot of deaths that were marked down as deaths weren't in fact from COVID; they were actually in fact from something else. But because they had some sort of interaction with it, or they had it at some point or another. So for example, you could be noted as having COVID today, and if you die in 1 month's time because you were hit by a car when you crossed the road, you were marked down as a COVID death. I feel that's completely wrong, and not to mention those medical industries, hospitals and all that kind of stuff, where they were incentivized to mark it down as a death. So I can't help but sit here and think, well, with my success in terms of my own health and my own problems that I've worked through in the alternative world, not to mention my wife and such a massive turnaround that was, to even the doctor said, look, we have no idea what you did, we don't know how you did it, but just keep doing it. It's working, obviously.
That makes sense.
I mean? And I'm not a doctor, but that's why I have my perspective. And so I would say to everybody else, do your homework, believe in what you truly believe in, and just be 100% about that. You know what I mean? Because that's all you can do.
I think it's important that obviously we mentioned in this part of the show that this is obviously not medical advice. This show is not about giving medical advice, but it's important for people to know. Yeah, so it's important for people to know that there are other opinions out there, and that's a reason why I actually asked you. And it is a sensitive topic, and there are conversations about this all the time, and I've seen them on social media, I've seen them everywhere, and everyone has their own opinion, and it's fine to have your own opinion. It's fine to believe in what you believe, but at the same time, the advice is that you always go and ask the GP, and that's one of the things that you did, which is great. You obviously found out from the GP what was the chemotherapy and other solutions, and then you went and found out another solution that you thought this might be a better way to cure my wife from this potential cancer, and you've done it, and it worked. And like you said, it could have worked, it could have been a potential failure, but it did work, and the doctors were happy for you to continue to do what you were doing as long as it's working. But yeah, so the advice is always to go to your GP and see what the situation is, and try your best to solve the problem, because you don't know, when you talk about vaccines, you don't know what you're putting into your body, and having that research and having that awareness is important as a human being. But at the same time, people want to be safe, people want to be cured, people want to be, that's all they know, and that's fine. If you're not a doctor, if you're not a nurse, if you're not a health practitioner, and that's all you don't know what it is that is important for you, you have to trust that your GP and your doctors and your nurses are actually there to support you. There's no doubt about that. They are there to, make your life better. It doesn't mean that they will always make your life better. It doesn't mean that they're perfect. They can't heal you, from everything that you have. Obviously we know that. Otherwise there'll be no deaths in hospitals. But it's important that as humans we are aware of what's happening. We do our research, and we do understand that what is out there and what we are doing in life, and just stay informed, because and that's why I do this show, because I want to try to inform people about different topics, about different issues, about different challenges that we are facing right now. But I'm sorry just about going on and on, but I think it's important that our listeners know, before we finish off, that this is an important topic. Everyone is discussing it, and we shouldn't shy away from discussing it.
Yes.
And I'm glad that obviously your wife is better now, and she has no illness, and is great to know. But yeah, so
thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time that you gave us, and I know that you didn't really want to discuss much about politics. I know that I sort of wanted you to see, and I really want people to see viewpoints, from different perspectives. But at the same time,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, anyone that's listening, they have to make their own judgment. And maybe you can just give a final note and on everything we said, and if there's any advice or any social media that you can tell people about, so they can just follow you on and learn a little bit more about business, about marketing. More than welcome to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate the plug, really, and that's what we call it in our world, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, look, just in terms of advice, and I'm not an expert in so many different areas of life, and that's why we went to the doctors,
yes.
So we could find out what happened to her. Then we could find out what are the solutions from that side. Then we
exactly.
find out what the solutions are from that side. And I guess that's where me being such a research freak, if you will, where I won't just sit down and go, oh, well, this guy said that e-commerce is the business of 2020.
Yeah.
I will search for multiple different answers, and then I will do their actual courses, and then I'll see if what they're doing on their social profiles match up with what they're teaching in their courses, because then you know how legit someone really is. And I understand, and this is probably the main reason why I want to pivot into consultation, is because when I spoke to one of my friends 3 months ago, he said, how do you know all this stuff, and how do you have the time and the money? I said, I don't know. I guess it's just important to me, and so that's what I choose to invest in.
Yeah.
So people can choose to invest in whatever they choose to do. So I guess that's for me, where, hey, if I can take my 17 years of experience in online marketing and I can condense and I can help you, because I've had a real conversation with you. I know what your personality is. I know what it is that you want to do. I know what your cultural background is. I know what your media preference is. Then I can sit out and go, okay, well, this is what you really need to do. You need to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to tell you that out of all of the courses out there, I'm going to save you 17 years of study. I'm going to save you, $250,000 of education, which is what I've done.
Yes.
And this is all you need to do. You need to spend $3,000 on that course. I find that would be a very fulfilling job.
Yeah.
Because I would be able to I'm not out there trying to force one product set down somebody's throat. I'm there literally trying to figure out what it is that you want to need to do, and then I will provide the solution depending on what it is that you want to do, not on what I think you should do.
I appreciate that.
Just with regards to everyone and what it is that they want to do, don't take any one person's advice. Don't put anybody on a pedestal. You are just as intelligent as anybody else.
100%.
Go out, do your own homework, have conversations with people who are actually in the industry that have your best interests. They're not just trying to sell you one particular product, and then make your own informed decision from there.
Yeah. Just for the last few seconds, just like you said, a plug.